Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting source material today. Raw footage, transcripts, basically capturing a political mobilization campaign right as it happened.
Yeah, and our goal today is really to unpack the language,
Mhm.
the specific demands, and, well, the tactics being used on the ground. It's quite revealing.
It really is. We're focusing on this campaign demanding the release of Nnamdi Kanu.
Right, the IPOB leader who's
Mhm.
currently detained. And, we're sticking purely to what the mobilizers themselves are saying in this footage. No external commentary, just their words, their claims.
Exactly. So let's set the scene a bit. The footage zeroes in on one particular moment. Organizers, including Sowore, moving into the Banex market area. But what caught my eye immediately was the pace. The source mentions this was the sixth market they'd hit.
In just 2 days.
Yeah, sixth market, 2 days. Part of this hashtag Free Nnamdi Kanu Now push. That's intense.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And hitting 6 markets, especially commercial hubs like Banex, in 48 hours.
Mm.
Well, that tells you something strategically, doesn't it?
What do you think? What's the signal there?
Well, I think it's twofold. First, maximum visibility, right? Go where the crowds are thickest. But second, it directly ties the political demand to people's everyday economic life.
Disrupting the market, getting attention.
Exactly. It feels like a rapid saturation strategy. Get the message out everywhere, fast, maybe before any counter-narrative can really form.
Makes sense. Hard to ignore when it's right there in the marketplace. Okay, so let's get into the core demand itself. Because the speakers in the footage, they were very, very precise about how they framed it legally.
Oh, extremely meticulous. They really controlled the narrative. For instance, they stated quite clearly, we are not demanding for pardon, don't get us wrong.
Okay, so ruling out a pardon.
And then they immediately followed up with, we are not begging to release Nnamdi Kanu.
Not begging. That's a strong stance.
It completely shifts the dynamic, you see. They're not asking for favors. They position themselves as claimants, asserting a right that's been violated.
So, if it's not begging, not asking for mercy or a pardon, how did they frame the demand? What's the basis they're claiming for his release?
Their specific wording is that he should be released from unjust, illegal detention.
Unjust and illegal. Okay.
Yeah. So that reframes it entirely. It's not about the government having discretion.
Yeah.
It's presented as the government being in violation of his rights, legal and constitutional rights. It turns it from just a criminal case into, well, a matter of civil liberty and state wrongdoing.
And this is where the language gets, frankly, quite aggressive. The claims escalate really sharply from illegal domestic detention to something much bigger, right? An international accusation against the government itself.
They went there, yes. They directly accused the Nigerian government of being international kidnappers.
Wow.
Saying they kidnapped him from Kenya. The speaker literally calls the government international kidnappers and even specifies not only kidnapping Nigeria, they are kidnapping from Kenya.
That's incredibly charged language. International kidnappers. Why use that kind of high-level international legal claim when you're talking to vendors in a local market like Banex? What's the play there?
Well, it serves a few purposes, I think. Locally, it underlines the supposed severity of the state's actions. Right? If the government is breaking international law for one person, it kind of justifies more radical responses from the people.
Okay. Rallies the base.
Definitely. But strategically, it's also aimed outwards. It's trying to grab the attention of international organizations, foreign media.
Oh, okay.
By framing it as a violation of sovereignty, international rights, they're likely hoping to generate external pressure that maybe local protests alone can't achieve. It elevates it beyond a domestic issue.
Right. Turns it into a potential global human rights flashpoint. That's quite a strategic layer.
Okay, moving on from the legal claims. The source material also details a very concrete deadline and what happens next. They seem to move straight from alleging the crime to setting out the consequence. Yes. The ultimatum was crystal clear. Specific date and everything. Release Nnamdi Kanu on or before 20th Monday. No wiggle room.
A hard deadline. And that sets up the next step, presumably. What's the consequence if the government doesn't meet that Monday deadline?
Well, the instruction is basically to escalate the mobilization. The source quotes the speaker saying they will mar on as wrong on Monday.
Mar on as wrong on Monday. That's the exact phrase from the story.
That's the direct quote, yeah. It seems to mean they'll proceed with the planned mass march, the civil disobedience scheduled for that Monday.
So the ball is firmly in the government's court to prevent that disruption.
Precisely. The onus is on them.
Now, let's focus on the specific instruction given to the people right there in Banex Market, because this involved asking them to take a direct action, a kind of calculated risk involving economic sacrifice.
Yes, the instruction of the market vendors was very precise. They were asked to all come out on Monday. And the key part, close your shop on Monday.
Close their shops. But there was a specific time frame mentioned, wasn't there?
There was, and this is, I think, quite tactically astute. They specified from 7 a.m. to 12 noon.
Okay, let's pause on that. 7 a.m. to 12 noon. Just 5 hours. Why that specific window? Why not shut down for the whole day? That seems significant.
I think it's a really smart piece of strategic compromise, actually. It shows the organizers understand the economic pressure points.
How so?
Well, a full-day strike. That risks alienating the very vendors they need on side, right? Closing all day could be financially devastating for many of them.
True.
But by asking for just 5 hours, specifically the busy morning hours, 7 till noon, they get the maximum political impact. The symbolic shutdown, the civil disobedience is visible when traffic is high. And then critically, the vendors can reopen by midday and still salvage their afternoon business. It balances the political statement with economic reality. It makes the protest sustainable, potentially repeatable, without destroying livelihoods.
Yeah, that shows a surprising level of planning and consideration for the participants.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the speaker also used the word bail, but then immediately clarified it. What was that about?
Right. They wanted to avoid any confusion, especially around money. They said something like, when I say bail, I'm not asking you to pay.
Not about posting bail money.
Exactly. They clarified, I'm talking about to bring him out to rejoin us. So the focus stays on community, on solidarity, on the physical act of bringing him back.
Got it. It's about release and return, not a financial transaction. Keeps the focus on collective action.
Precisely.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. The footage also gives us insight into the broader political argument they're making. It's not just about Kanu, it's a critique of the whole system, isn't it? They use some pointed comparisons.
Oh, absolutely. Kanu's detention becomes Exhibit A in a case against, well, systemic injustice. The key rhetorical device were this sharp question they posed to the crowd.
Which was?
Essentially, if Kanu is supposedly going through the court process, why are these other figures, and they name specific types, the terrorists, the bandit, even a drug dealer, why are they not in court?
That's a loaded comparison. Terrorists, bandits. Why pick those specific examples, do you think?
Well, it directly taps into a widespread public frustration, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's often a perception, rightly or wrongly, that those involved in banditry or terrorism sometimes seem to operate with impunity or maybe get deals or aren't pursued with the same vigor.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
So by contrasting that perceived leniency or inaction with the very visible, very prolonged, very severe detention of a political figure like Kanu, they're basically arguing the rule of law isn't applied equally. It's discriminatory.
And they draw a very direct conclusion from that perceived inequality.
They do. The speaker states it plainly. That is to show to you that some people are better than others in Nigeria. That's the heart of the structural critique right there. So Kanu's individual case stops being just about him and becomes this symbol of a much larger political problem. Who gets justice? Who matters under the current system?
And this leads directly to their fundamental political stance, what they're ultimately rejecting through this mobilization.
Exactly. The whole campaign, when you listen to the rhetoric, is framed as a fundamental rejection of second-class citizenship.
Second-class citizenship.
The demand for Kanu's release, combined with the comparisons, the allegations of kidnapping, it all becomes part of a bigger fight for equal rights, for judicial parity. His case, in their narrative, is proof that the system treats certain groups as less than full citizens.
So pulling all this together, thinking about what this means for you, the listener, when we synthesize all these elements, the rhetoric, the tactics, the claims, what does it tell us about this specific mobilization effort?
Well, I think it reveals a really sophisticated kind of multi-pronged strategy. This isn't just, a spontaneous angry crowd. It's timed, it's targeted. It blends maximum rhetorical force. I mean, international kidnapping is about as strong as you can get with very precise, localized tactics, like that 5-hour market closure.
So hitting hard with words, but being practical on the ground.
Kind of. It feels like they're trying to fight on two fronts at once. Pressure the government via international shame or attention while building a committed, actionable base locally through these manageable acts of civil disobedience.
And that commitment, asking vendors to close shops even for half a day, you can feel the dedication required in the source material.
Definitely. And, my final thought here is just how effectively they seem to link the personal and the political. They use familiar language like bail our brother, which emphasizes that sort of kinship, that solidarity.
Personal connection.
But by immediately tying that to this huge existential rejection of second-class citizenship, his personal detention becomes a powerful statement about the entire nation's governance, about justice itself.
Yeah, that connection between the global legal claim, kidnapping, and the very local economic action, closing shops for 5 hours, is quite something. It raises a question, though, thinking about the organizers making these huge claims, needing international attention, but relying on this repeated local 5-hour sacrifice. How sustainable is that?
That's the key question, isn't it?
If these short, targeted disruptions have to happen again and again to keep the pressure on, what does that look like long term? That's maybe something for you to think about as we wrap up this deep dive.
A real test of resolve for everyone involved.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We have asked them to release Nnamdi Kanu, and we want to make it very clear. We are asking them to release him on or before 20th, Monday. So they have an option. Don't let them tell us they don't have an option. The option is to release him now so that we don't have to march on Aso Rock on Monday. But if they don't release him by Monday, and they are claiming that he's in court, why is it that the terrorists are not in court? Why are the bandits not in court? Why are the drug dealers being pardoned? That is to show to you that some people are better than others in Nigeria and will reject second-class citizenship. And the Nigerian state must release Nnamdi Kanu on Monday. That's our message. But our message to you here is that you should all come out on Monday. You cannot lose anything by closing your shop on Monday, even if it's from 7 a.m. to 12 noon, and to come and bail our brother and let him come back home to us. When I say bail, I'm not asking to pay for shortio. I'm talking about to bring him out to rejoin us. That is why we came here to see you. Thank you very much. Yes. Free Nnamdi Kanu now! Free Nnamdi Kanu now! Nnamdi Kanu is another savior.